All right, here we go. Today it's my honor to sit down with not only one of the greatest rappers of all time, but one of the most prolific poets and storytellers in hip hop. The artist who changed the direction of hip hop from party music to speaking about social issues and drug abuse, which later set the stage for rappers like Chuck D and Kendrick Lamar.
Tell me more about my eyes.
Grandmaster Melle Mel of the Furious Five, welcome to VladTV.
In the building, baby, in the building.
Such an honor to really sit down, man. I've been such a longtime fan, and your music was really the soundtrack for when I first fell in love with hip hop and started out as a breakdancer in the 80s. So to actually sit down with someone whose music I was really, really in love with for a very long time is definitely an honor for me.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Well, this is your first time here, so I want to get into your whole story. So you grew up in the Bronx.
Yeah, the only place in New York to actually worth coming from is the Bronx.
Okay, so you grew up in the 60s and 70s and then the 80s. And, you know, the Bronx is not the most high-end area in 2021, but during that time, it was really a mess.
Yeah, it was, around the Fort Apache era, all the buildings was burnt out. I mean, they had literally, you had like 8 square blocks of nothing but, it looked like a war zone, some of the places in the Bronx. But it's a good time, though. Good time to be, good time to come up. Wasn't nothing going on, so,
Okay, now, hip-hop was allegedly invented around 1973 with Kool Herc.
Yeah, the first hip-hop jams, more like b-boys, house parties. They used, the indoor, the rooms in the projects to throw parties. And that was around 73 when Herc did his party. But I was young then. In 73, I was maybe 14, 13. Yeah.
Okay. So how old were you when you first started really becoming aware that hip hop was in the Bronx and started to kind of build up?
Well, I was about 16 to 17, 77, the night of the blackout. The next day that I actually started out as a b-boy. So I used to, go to Herc jams, or the first DJ we went to was DJ Smokey, so we went to his joint. But the day after the blackout was when I officially had got down with Flash, and it was me and my brother Creole. He already had Cowboy. Cowboy was already down. So, and I was in like 1977. So I was like maybe 16 then.
Okay. Now, drugs were prevalent in the Bronx during that time. Crack came a little bit later, and you addressed that in some of your music. I mean, what year did you remember things started to kind of get worse in the Bronx?
After we started doing music, at one point it didn't get worse; it had got better because cocaine was the classy party drug, But it was always heroin. But that was when growing up and seeing all the needles on the roof, and but it actually had gotten better. Like when we first started doing music, it was cocaine was the cool drug, before everybody started getting really hooked on it. But I never really was into cocaine like that. I just bought it and gave it to people. It was like more like a handshake. You know what I mean? Here, take a couple of bumps. For girls or whatever. But it didn't start getting bad for me till crack came out, because I wasn't never really a sniffer. I was a smoker. So when everybody started doing crack and it was something to smoke. Most black people, they like to smoke shit anyway. So. I kind of got thrown off a little bit in the crack era. But before that, I had no problem with cocaine because I never sniffed it. I wasn't into it like that.
Okay, and crack came, about the early 80s, mid-80s?
Early 80s, yeah. 82, 80, 80.
Okay. Well, before Sugar Hill Gang, you had a couple of records out. Originally with the younger generation, We Rap More Mellow.
Yeah, that was a record, we did. It was a producer called Terry Lewis, so-called producer. He was half producer, half con man, and we did that with him. But then we did the other record with Bobby Robinson for Enjoy, and that was our our best, super rap, and that was our coming out party as far as recordings go.
Okay, so you did super rapping, and some of the lyrics in that, ended up getting used later on in some of your other records.
Yeah. The Child Is Born rhyme was used for the message.
Right. Okay, so then you put out this, the super rapping record, and it makes some noise, and then right around that time, the Sugar Hill Gang comes out with Rapper's Delight.
Well, they came out with Rapper's Delight first.
Okay.
I believe Super Rapper came out in '80, and then Rapper's Delight came out in '79. So, but before that, the whole scene was we basically dominated the scene through block parties, and we gave some of the biggest indoor parties, rivaling what Herc was doing. And then after Rapper's Delight came out, that changed the whole dynamic, because it was like I always seen hip hop like as guys that could actually do it, should do it. And then that was the first time that I heard guys that I didn't really think was up to hip hop standards actually rap. And then people was coming to us like, y'all should make a record like that. And I was always like, well, why should we do some stupid shit like that? Like, we thought any rapper at that time thought Rapper's Delight was the worst record that they ever heard. But the people loved it. Like, the people went fucking bananas off it. But, I was like, one of the guys was Big Bang Hank. That was fucking Kaz's man. It's like, what is he doing with a mic? You know what I mean?
Right, because I actually interviewed Kaz, and he broke down how Big Bang Hank stole his entire verse for that song. I mean, literally, he actually says Kaz's name. I'm the GRANSTR, the CAZ, and the rest of FLY. Like, I messed up the lyrics a little bit, but he's literally saying Kaz's name in the verse.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought it was the worst shit that I ever heard. But people loved it, though. They, it's like that record was probably, it was the only thing that I've ever lived to see as hot as Rapper's Delight was when Michael Jackson came out with Thriller. But that was, like I said, we hated it, but people, they loved it. And then that just changed the whole dynamic. So now it wasn't about, because we had a year and a half of building up a whole lot of street reputation and doing parties. And then in one swoop, they came out with that record. And then overnight, they was the top, they was the top guys. So then we had to go on, the mind thought of how we going to start making records. And then we made Super Rappin', and then after that, we signed with Sugar Hill.
Okay, and at the time, Sugar Hill was run by Joe and Sylvia Robinson, and Joe Robinson was a pretty major gangster.
Yeah, he was but you know what? I got a lot of love for Joe Robinson, because it wasn't like he was a gangster like a person would say that they're a gangster now, but he was he was a street dude. He came up in the street. He had good connections, but he was a man. He taught me, I learned a lot from Joe Robinson about being a real man, not the gangster part, because we never seen that side of him. I personally never seen that side of him, but he was definitely, he had good connections. He was a good guy.
Okay, and were you the first rapper to call yourself MC?
Yeah, I made up the term because, see, our whole thing, in the beginning, rap wasn't necessarily entertainment. What Hercules was doing, it wasn't entertaining. So when you came to a hip-hop party, it was like a lot of roaming around, and then everybody would go like where the B-boys, if somebody was B-boy, and then they would crowd around the B-boys. If somebody was hustling, they would crowd around the people that was hustling. But most of it was like just a lot of people roaming around. So what we was trying to do was to get the whole thing to where it's more of an event, so that people won't do all that roaming around, so that their attention is fixated on a certain part of the room where the DJ was, or and that's what we went about doing the routines, and calling the MC, to make it a show. So at first we said EMCEE, because that's like the guys that do the game shows, they're MCs, and then we just shortened it down to MC, and that's how that term got coined, from just us trying to make what we was doing more like a show, other than just a bunch of people in the party listening to a DJ.
Okay, so now you're on Sugar Hill Records, which is, the first label with a hit song in hip hop, period. So, and they're signing a lot of the other groups, and you're just, one of many groups on Sugar Hill at this time.
Yeah.
So you guys started dropping singles, and I guess Freedom was the first single?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that was a smash. It sampled Get Up and Dance by the group Freedom. Later on, it was actually sampled by SWV for
Right.
the song Anything.
And actually, Freedom was supposed to be a Love Bug Starsky song. But he had a lisp, and she didn't want to record, it's like they didn't record people that spoke in back in the day. Like Biggie had a lisp. But for people that don't know what a lisp is, like a lisp, like how would Biggie be slurring his words like that? And it's called a lisp. So she didn't sign Starsky because he had a lisp, and then she let us put our thing on the record, and that's how Freedom came about. But it was originally for Love Bug Starsky.
Okay, and then a few more songs came out. The Birthday Party,
Is
Showdown,
Nasty.
It's Nasty, Scorpio, which was the electro record.
Right.
Was that the first electro hip hop record?
No, it actually was for Planet Rock, but we did that because Planet Rock was the trend back then. So we was like, we got to do something, to stay in the trend where the music was going, and then that's when we did Scorpio.
Okay, and were you close to Africa Bambaataa?
But we all grew up together. Now, I'm not saying we was close because what it was back then, it wasn't like it was beef, but it was always competition. So Bam was the competition. And we had healthy respect for him because, we had the Zulu Nation, you would do the anniversary, we would come, we perform, so we wasn't necessarily close, but we traveled the same circle, so we was good.
I mean, when you fast forward years later, when you hear about the accusations of Bambaataa, about the molestation charges and everything else like that, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's not like people didn't know, or it's not like it was something that was unknown, in other words. But it was just something that was like, maybe hip hop's best kept secret or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you knew, and you saying everyone pretty much knew that Africa Bambaataa was gay.
It is what it is. I mean, you got people that would deny it. You got people that would say they don't know. I'm saying everybody knew it, so it was all right there. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, being gay is especially these days, is perfectly acceptable, not a big deal. But messing with underage boys is something completely different.
Well, you see that part about it, you would have to interview him because our whole thing and my whole thing is like I said, is everybody knew, It ain't like it wasn't like it was a mystery. Well, it was, that's Bam. That's who,
Well, those singles that you put out, they made some noise and they did well, and then The Message came around.
Right.
Now, up until that point, hip hop was really just all party records, right?
Exactly. Party records, hip hop 101, writing rhymes about writing rhymes, It was, the good old days.
Right. It was call and response. It was braggadocio. It was how much money and jewelry I got.
Right.
How many cars, how many ladies I got.
Right.
I'm partying. I'm having a good time. And then out of the blue, comes this song right in the middle of Reaganomics. And, around that time, crack started hitting New York.
It was around, that's when it actually, that's when it first started, around 80, 81, 82.
Right. And then the song comes out that was completely different than anything that anyone's ever heard before. And it was you and Duke Booty, right? So the song features you and Duke Booty, who I guess produced the song as well, right?
Well, the song was produced by Jigs Chase, Sylvia Robinson, and Duke Booty played on the song, but I wouldn't say he necessarily produced it, but it was because see the whole thing with the message is nobody believed in that song except for Sylvia Robinson. It was her whole. It's just like probably nobody believed in Rapper's Delight except for Sylvia Robinson. But Duke Booty had wrote 2 songs. One song was called Dumb Love, and the other song was The Message, Broken Glass Everywhere. People, but the lyrics to Dumb Love was, I seen her dancing on Soul Train. Everybody seen her face, don't nobody know her name, and then it was just Dumb Love. It was just like a repetitive hook. He liked Dumb Love. I didn't think too much about either of the songs either way. But Sylvia was so, she was just so fixated on doing that song, and she told his name is Ed Fletcher, Duke Booty. She told him, we'll put out Dumb Love on you, but I want to do the message for one of the groups. Now we had a song out at that time, so Sugar Hill Gang was supposed to do the message, but they didn't like the song. So she had a song that basically nobody wanted to do. So I did the song because, like I said, she was so fixated on doing the song that I knew the song was going to get done anyway. So it might as well just go for the ride and do the song. So they went in the studio, her and Jigs put the track together. Duke Booty played percussion. It took 3 days to mix the song. She didn't want nobody to touch the board. She would tape it until she got it exactly right. And when she put it out, like I said, I didn't think the record was going to do anything because it didn't resonate nothing that was going on in the basic hip hop world. It wasn't a hip hop song. It didn't have no beats in it. You couldn't break dance to it, but it resonated in the general public, basically. That, don't push me close to the edge, I'm trying not to lose my head. That could be anybody. That could be, and that song was like a song like people that didn't like hip hop, that wish hip hop would go away. That was the first song that made the average person that wasn't a hip hop person like hip hop.
Yeah, I mean, the poetry and storytelling of that last verse.
Yeah.
A child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind. God is smiling on you, but he's frowning too because only God knows what you'll go through.
Yeah, but that's basically the story of every kid that ever grew up in the hood. That's the story. I mean, on the bad.
And then, by the end of the verse, the kid ends up going to prison and then getting raped in prison and ultimately committing suicide by hanging himself.
Right.
At the end. And it's just like, wow. Just the imagery of it was really like nothing you've ever heard before in music, period.
Right. But there, and that's just trying to, that's Sylvia Robinson trying to just, she you could say anything you want to say about it. She's a great producer. She produced the 2 pivotal records that helped change hip hop and basically helped change music. And my verse, that was just me. Like I always try to write different. I never, if I see, I tell people to this day, if you see a bunch of niggas doing something, do something else. That's what's going to work. You have a better chance of because it's less competition over here than over there. You know what I'm saying? So. And that's what The Child Is Born was. And actually, I got the concept of the song from Living for the City, Stevie Wonder. A boy is born in Hard Time, Mississippi. That's how he opened his, and I opened my verse up. A child is born with no state of mind. So, and that was where the inspiration for that verse.
Well, wow, I just learned something today. Okay, well, you didn't think the song was going to do anything, but the song comes out and it goes platinum in less than a month.
Yeah.
This is the first time you've had anywhere near that type of success.
Right, because it went to another level. It's like, and even to this day, most hip hop is like I call it niggerachi. I mean, even though white people listen to a lot of it, but it's more, it comes from a urban place. It's like street. It's more street. Now, the message was actually a street record, but it, like I said, it resonates amongst anybody. And then it gave us like a pop audience, and then it gave us like a rock and roll audience. So, you know, we started hanging out downtown, and I, you know, we was trying to be stars. Like, we wasn't trying to be necessarily street. I was trying to be, you know, I wanted to be a rock star. I seen Billy Idol, and he was, you know, doped up on one side of the bar. I wanted to be coked up on the other end of the bar, like downtown, and, you know, amongst all the people that was down there. I wanted to be, you know, a rock star. And we did it. You know, we did what we, you know, paid the price, but we did it.
Well, I mean, this is the first hip hop record that was added to the United States National Archive of Historic Recordings. First hip hop record to be inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Just a big impact. And then later on, Ice Cube ended up sampling the record for the Check Yourself remix. Did you like that version, by the way?
I thought it was okay. I mean, you know, I was never a big Daz Effects fan, but I thought it was okay. I mean, you know, somebody else's version of it is almost like, it's like they paying homage, you know, because they just did it just like when Puffy did it. They just did, you know, a tricked out version of it. You know, the only thing that I would say is that, you know, if we could have got a verse on it, you know, just to make it honest. But, you know, I mean, people do what they do. They just did it, you know, they did their version of our song. And it was a nice little check in it, so that never hurt.
Right, I forgot. Yeah, Puffy featuring Mace, Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, sampled the message as well. Okay. Right, and then, I mean, Snoop ended up quoting the song for two of America's Most Wanted. I keep my hand on my gun because they got me on the run.
Right.
And then Spice One, you know, Jealous Got Me Strapped with Tupac, said the same thing on his chorus. I keep my hand on my gun because they got me on the run. So like the effects of the song just kept hitting music over and over again, decade after decade. You know, because everyone was a fan of the song originally, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, but even still to this day, that's the most important. And it definitely was a couple of important songs in hip hop, but that is the single most important song in hip hop. Not, you know, in you know, people would have to understand the true meaning of the word important. You know what I mean? You could say anything is important, you know, but it's up to anybody's discretion. But that was definitely the song that made it. That was when hip hop actually grew up. Hip hop was a man then. You know, before it was just a bunch of little kids. We running around, we b-boying. You know, they putting spray paint on everything. After the message, it was real. It's like this is art. Now this is, you know, in the Library of Congress. You know, it's a man now. Hip hop is a grown man after that.
I agree. I completely agree. Well, so then the next record was New York, New York.
Right.
Another great record.
Yeah, that was another record that was partially written by Duke Booty. He wrote he wrote the record, but I filled in some of the blanks in the record. Like it was not even a complete record. It was a hook and maybe about a verse and a half, something like that. And then I just filled it out, made them all a complete song out of it.
Well, years later, the Dog Pound and Snoop ended up kind of redoing the record, New York, New York, where they used the hook. It was a totally different beat, but they used the hook. And I remember interviewing Corrupt about the making of this record. And originally, the New York record was actually basically an homage to you and the original New York rappers. But then when they went out to New York to film the music video, Biggie got on the radio and kind of said, "Oh, you know, New York, we're looking soft right now. These guys are filming music videos in Brooklyn," and the video shoot got shot up.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then that turned into a diss record against New York. You know, where in the video, Snoop started kicking over the buildings and everything else like that.
Would you believe I never seen that video? I past me just doing hip hop, I'm not really into hip hop, and because see that it got to a point in hip hop where the songs made sense because music is music. It's good music, it's bad music, but it got to a point in hip hop where some of the behaviors didn't make a lot of sense. Even when people started smoking a lot of weed, certain behaviors just didn't make sense to me. So when it got to the point where hip hop started getting into these, like to the beef era, none of that made sense to me, because if you really had a beef with somebody, either you'll settle it or you'll go on stage and settle it. But it's not going to be, like, I'm a grown man. I'm not going to have no problem, whereas if me and you was going to be talking back and forth online. Either I'm going to call you or I'm going to go see you, and then we just going to settle it. But this whole, you can have a beef with somebody in hip hop for like a year and a half and don't nobody got a scratch on them.
Right, because at that point, the East Coast, West Coast beef was starting to kind of go. Right. And then once again, the song got redone by Mobb Deep, Capone Noriega, and Tragedy Khadafi on LA, which was a diss record towards the West Coast.
Right.
So once again, you get kind of not really dragged into it, but your music is kind of part of this whole thing.
You know what? See, a lot of that, because when all that East Coast, West Coast beef was going on, I lived in LA. And I didn't, it's like in LA, we was like more or less had OG status. So nobody never, on my mother's eyes, it never came to a point where we was in a club, because we used to go out every week. I used to run in and out of Slauson swap meet. Nobody never approached me about, Melle Mel, you from the East Coast and woo woo. We never had that problem out there. They always, and I don't know about right now, but back then they always treated us, we had OG status. They treated us with the utmost respect. Not saying that we can go hang out in the projects or nothing like that, but if people seen us, they just respected it for what it is. We had OG status.
Well, yeah, I remember when I interviewed Tretch about the whole situation. And, he said, yeah, certain rappers, Biggie and Tupac had issues with each other and stuff like that, but it wasn't really turned into an East Coast, West Coast thing until that Vibe cover came out.
Yeah, that was kind of more media driven as well,
Right,
like
right. And on the cover, it had Biggie and Puffy and it said East versus West.
Right.
And then suddenly it was coined a term and everyone started to kind of jump in based on their geographic, locations.
Right.
Yeah, and ultimately that ended horribly with Tupac and Biggie getting killed.
Yeah, but see, and that's the problem with what goes on in hip hop is like and this is even all this media driven thing. Don't say nothing about nobody, first of all, that you wouldn't say to their face. And if you do got a beef, just settle it. As men, though, not like, oh yeah, when I see you, because when it gets down to that part, at the end of the day, anybody that rap, they're not really that tough. You can't convince me. You can't convince me that the average rapper can go fight an MMA guy and be successful. You see what I'm saying? The average person don't got a round in them. The average rapper got less than that. I'm probably one of the most fit rappers ever. I never had a round in me. Never. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But they did. See, what it is. See, this is what hip hop is. At some point, it became guys MCing. But then they want to be like those guys in the street. And those guys in the street, they would never MC back then. A street guy would never MC because that's beneath him. He's too busy doing his thing on the street. But that's what rap became more and more into after, like Run DMC was the first rappers to actually come across like street guys. Everybody other than that, they had an image. We was trying to be entertainment, and they had an image. So when running them made their image a street guy, that took for me, and I love Run DMC, one of my favorite people ever. You know what I'm saying? Good dude. But when they did that, that's when I knew it was the beginning of the end, because you can't, like, everybody in life got their place. You can't let street guys make them kind of decisions with music because they street guys. It ain't like they entertainment guys. It ain't like they musical guys. It ain't like they, know anything about notes. It ain't like they know anything about image. You know what I mean? Or how to do good interviews. They don't know nothing about that. They just street guys. And when anything street guys do is going to fall under. It's just going to go back to some street shit, which is not, after a while is not entertainment no more. It's just is street shit. That's all it is,
Right, but you talk about how most people don't have a round in them in an MMA fight. I think the big difference when you talk about rappers and popular rappers at that is that 99% of them have bodyguards, have entourages, have street guys that are sort of around them. They know they're not going to have to physically fight anyone themselves. There's 5-10 people that are ahead of them that will handle that type of dirt for them. So they're open to saying whatever, knowing that they don't have to get their hands dirty themselves. And that's always been the case.
Well, not always. I never had a bodyguard.
Well, okay, not always, but most of the time when you look at hip hop history.
Well, at a certain point, see,
Yeah.
like I said, when it came down to guys having the image of a street guy, that's when it started morphing into that. You know what I mean? It's like in the beginning, as you would know, we was just making records about making records. It got from where we did the message to Public Enemy. Now you got all of these conscious groups and X-Clan and Poor Righteous Teacher. Right after that, NWA comes out.
Yep.
And then that went into a further decline because now you got, and like I said, I have no problem with Cube and them. I love Cube, I love Dre, but 10 years of that,
Yeah.
I mean, because like I said, that's going back to, and I'm gonna stand on this and I'll never back off. You don't get street guys to do entertainment shit. You get entertainers to do entertainment shit. And at the end of the day, what you get is a bunch of street shit. Now, anybody could be anything they want to be. That ain't even my argument. That ain't my thing. But at the end of the day, if what you doing ain't working out, if what somebody else did ain't working out for them, if you do the same thing, it's not going to work out for you. And that's what we have in hip hop. They went so far, and that's even in society. People take street shit too seriously. Most street guys wind up going to jail. The only street guys that don't go to jail is the ones that didn't go to jail yet. Because that's what it is. It's just so what you have right now is a society that's based on all illegal shit. The legal guy, it don't mean nothing. The hardworking guy, fuck him. He's a fucking clown. But the street guy is the important guy. The guy that's going to wind up going to jail is the important guy. And see, these rappers, they imitate street guys, but they bolster the image of a street guy. And no matter how you look at it, a street guy, as long as he stay on the street, is always going to fail. Always. Even at $2 over lunch money and you got to leave the street. But the way they got it, everybody looking at it is like you can stay in the street and you can't stay there. Because these are all guys that's trying to come up. You can't be up and then stand there. Because now you're standing out. Either the cops is going to watch you or some of them dudes is going to get you. But even sucker music is always a mirror image of what society is. It's always gonna parallel. So you can't have these guys thinking that they can come up and stay there, because that's where it gets messy. You only in the streets, you're only supposed to get as far up as when you made it, and then you have to go. So then somebody else can make it and go. But everybody, oh yeah, he a street dude. And there's nothing important about being a street dude, because the street dude is going to stay on the street. It is by its definition, it's a losing battle. So now you got a guy that got $50 million, and you trying to act like a street guy. and you're gonna put dudes around you and go around and still try to act like a street guy, it's not gonna work. You got a running beef with everybody because that's what street guys do. You know, you're on the corner, you got a beef with the guys and it always was like that. You had some kind of beef with the guy that's right up the block. But what we did, if we had a beef, we went on stage and handled our beef. But they ain't doing that no more. So it's like, what are you teaching a little young kid? Now, you know, I'm from the hood like anybody else. I ain't never shot nobody or stabbed nobody because I never had to. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I did whatever little dirt that I could do until I realized that wasn't going to work out good. And then we started doing music. So 15, 16, 17, I'm good. We made a few dollars. But what is that teaching these little dudes that it's all right to kill somebody? You know, and you get up every day, you look at the news, it's some 14, 15, 13-year-old, killing somebody. And then, I'm not gonna say I'm mad at the street. I'm disappointed in the street guys because anybody as a person should know better. Who I'm mad at is these overeducated motherfuckers that keep trying to psychoanalyze these motherfuckers instead of you. Like, listen, let's calm this shit down. When did that meeting ever happen? Where these overeducated motherfuckers that could pinpoint, every problem that was going on and describe the problem so eloquently, when did these motherfuckers sit down and say, let's try to calm this shit down?
Well, I mean, speaking of the problems, the next song, White Lines, which was the first anti-drug song in hip hop?
Yeah. Anti-drug song, yeah.
And number one, such a completely unique structure to this song. It was like a 4-part harmony that's kind of bringing back, it's like part rap, part singing, but not really like R&B singing. It's more of a harmonizing kind of thing.
Yeah, but the whole thing behind White Lines, I wrote that song, but it was more like a deja vu. Because the beat was already there, it was Cavern. So the beat was a big club song. And I had a dream that I was going into Roxy, and I used to always meet Scorpio down at the Roxy, and it wasn't a stage, but it was like a landing where some stairs was, but it was off to the side of the stairs, and he would always stand there and do his little poses and all that. And I had the dream that when I came into Roxy and I seen him posing, but the song was playing in the dream. So then I put the song together, and one day I was coming into Roxy, and Scorp was standing there doing the poses, and the song was playing just like it was in the dream. But when we have actually recorded the song, Ronnie Isley was in the studio, like while we was recording it, because they was Sylvia and them was good friends with the Isley brothers. So Ronnie used to always be in the studio hanging out, drinking or whatever. And that part of the song, that's Twist and Shout. Shake it up, that's how Miss Rob put that part in the song. So yeah, we can use that just to break it up, because without that it's just a straight driving beat. But with the higher baby, get higher, that's Twist and Shout. So that's how that song got put together. It was like part of mostly of what I did, but then that one part was Twist and Shout from Ronnie Isley.
Huh, dope.
Yeah.
Okay, I never knew that. All right, and there's a line in that song where he said, a businessman is caught with 24 kilos. He's out on bail and out of jail, and that's the way it goes. And you're talking about John DeLorean, right?
Exactly. And that's basically how the criminal justice system is anyway. The little guy that ain't got no money, if you get caught, but then the big guys, if they got, they get a little slap on the wrist and.
Yeah, I mean, for those, there's actually a movie about that, which I saw recently. And basically, the DeLorean car company, that you saw in Back to the Future, was run by this guy, John DeLorean, and the company started going bankrupt because they were making basically shitty cars. he decided to do some major drug deal to try to finance the company. He got caught, and ultimately he wasn't convicted.
Right.
He got away with it.
Right.
So,
Well, you know, the politics can tell you if you getting high, got friends in high enough places, you can literally get away with murder. So.
And what else is interesting about that song that I didn't realize until we started researching it is there's an unofficial music video for that song, which was directed by Spike Lee, who was an NYU film student at the time, and it starred Lawrence Fishburne.
That's right.
A very weird video, by the way.
Yeah, but now, when I first saw the video, and now mind you, this is before Spike Lee did Do the Right Thing. This is maybe 2 years before he even did Do the Right Thing. Mm-hmm. And I first saw the video, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's all right, you know, because Joe Robson, they sent the video to Joe. Joe had me look up and said, yeah, it's all right, nice video, and I said, you know, so what happened to the guy? You gonna use the video? And he said, nah. I told him go fuck yourself. Right? 2 or 3 years later, Joe Robson said, come, you gotta come look at this. You gotta come look at this. I come at the same video, you know, directed by Spike Lee and the girl dancing and Larry Fishburne with the suit on. And then, from my understanding of the story is, when Joe Robson tried to approach Spike Lee about using the video, Spike said, "Go fuck yourself."
Karma.
But
okay.
now if he would have had put that video out, he would have probably discovered Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Had he put it out, but he didn't, you know, he didn't put it out. He just, you know, like shrugged him off, like, yeah, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. But like I said, you guys could look up, you know, when you're watching this, you know, you could go on YouTube and find it. It's a weird video, man. There's these girls dancing, and then like Lawrence Fishburne is like doing coke, and he's got girls kind of hanging on him. It's not like a typical video, period. So I can see why Joe was like, I don't know.
Back then it might have worked because it was weird. Like you said, it was
avant-garde, I guess.
That's what I was about to say. That was the word I was going to use, avant-garde. But it might have worked.
Okay, so you guys have all the success, especially with the message,
right?
And you ended up splitting from the group, and I guess you actually filed a lawsuit against Sugar Hill Records.
Well, all the groups that was signed with Sugar Hill filed a lawsuit. Yeah, we actually are still in court with with the Sons or whatever. Yeah.
Wait, you're talking about 35 years later? You're still in a lawsuit?
You know what? Don't put nothing past anybody over money. Money. When they say money's the root of all evil, believe me, it's the root of all evil. It's probably a million other artists besides me or even before me that died penniless, and these are some of the biggest songs that you ever heard. And because it's greed. It all boils down to greed.
How much do you think you're owed that you didn't get? Millions?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that could be easy. I mean, but and when I always say, if I would have got what was coming to me back then, I probably wouldn't be here now, because I was doing drugs and just being reckless. So not saying that I'm glad it happened, but things happen for a reason. In other words, I mean, look. And history would tell you with music, you give somebody a bunch of money, they'll blow their brains out without a gun. It done happened to the best of us. Elvis, Hendrix, Michael.
Yeah. Prince.
Get all the money in the world, and that's the word, and that probably was the worst thing that happened. So I mean, I consider myself lucky because Well,
I want to talk about some of the other members of the group. So, Kid Creole, who's your brother,
Yeah.
he was obviously a core member of the group, but years later, some problems started arising. So in 82 and 95, in 82, he got arrested for firearm possession. In 95, he got arrested for possession of a knife, which, those two things aren't really a big deal. But then in 2017, he got arrested and charged for the murder of a homeless man in New York City. According to reports, I guess he was working as a handyman and a security guard in Midtown, and he walked by a homeless man who I guess propositioned him in a homosexual manner or something like that. And they say that your brother actually pulled out a knife. He had a knife with, on his forearm with rubber bands. He ended up stabbing him in the chest and killing him. Is that case still going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so he hasn't gone to court yet.
No.
Okay. Have you spoken to him since he got locked up?
No, well, me and my brother, we didn't really have no dialogue for, a minute even before that. But, yeah, he hasn't gone to court yet. I mean, he should beat the case. Because the media they overblown that because they, and actually the courts, because they wanted this big case being that he had a name. Had he would have been anybody else, two men have an argument, one man have a knife, the guy with the knife is going to win the fight. And, it's like, because the way it sounds is like, okay, this dude that was in a group years ago killed the homeless guy. I seen a picture of the guy. He's a deranged bum. It wasn't a homeless guy. This was a guy that he didn't want a home. He was a deranged bum. And I'm not saying this because that's my brother, because like I said, me and my brother, we wasn't on the best of terms for years. But you kill a deranged bum, and then they treat you like you killed, Mother Teresa. Like it was some guy that was begging for soup, or some guy that was on the soup kitchen line, and then my brother stabbed him. He stabbed a deranged bum. The bum approached him, and actually, he did what anybody else would have done had this guy would have approached him, unless he was going to run.
Yeah.
So, it might sound harsh to, the average person looking at it, but he killed a bum. I mean, people get killed all the time, and they ain't sitting in jail that long. This is going on the third year now.
Yeah, I wonder why it's taking so long to even come to trial.
They want to, they just want to drag it out. That's the criminal justice system. And just like with the guy that killed himself when he got out of jail, that Jay-Z did the story on or whatever, he stayed in jail for 3 years. That's the criminal justice system, and it just draws itself out. And the moral behind that story is don't do illegal shit, no matter what it is. No matter what it is, unless you're a criminal, the criminal justice system can't help you. It is not going to help you. And that's what that was. One guy's going to work. One guy's harassing people. The guy that was harassing people harassed the guy that was going to work, and the guy stabbed him.
Yeah. I hope it works out. I hope it works out for him.
No, he should beat the case. It shouldn't be,
Well, another member of the group, Cowboy. Now, Cowboy was the one who invented the term hip hop?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I guess he was teasing a friend of his from the Army?
Yeah, it was a guy called, his name was Mike, but his nickname was Kokomo, and he was getting ready to go to the Army, and, and Cowboy started doing the little cadence, hip hop, and he just, hip hop, hip hop, and then it kind of caught on with people. Because as a matter of fact, the term of hip hop actually came about not necessarily from one of us. I mean, he used to say it and it was on the tapes, but people, this is how the term hip hop caught on. Said, y'all better get a job because that hip hop shit won't last forever. That's what we used to hear from people. And then that's how the term hip hop caught on. Because a cowboy saying hip hop, and then they would call it hip hop shit. And that's how that term.
It's the biggest genre of music in the world.
You see, who would have thunk it?
Crazy, huh?
Who would have thunk it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I interviewed one of the big rappers out of Russia, and he was telling me how hip hop is the biggest genre in Russia now. And I came from Russia, so to me, this is like completely mind blowing. But sure enough, you go to places, you know, even China, hip hop is starting to become the dominant art form. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how it just came from a little mocking term like that.
Yeah, but you know, but see, what it all boils down to is the expression. And any other kind of music, you got to be an expert in order to express yourself through the music. You know what I mean? And even with R&B singing, you got to be able to somewhat sing to be successful at it. With hip hop, all the rules don't apply. You could be a shit rapper and you could be successful. So and that's the beauty of it, because it's a blessing. So everybody's blessed. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it. I never thought that I thought what we was doing would be like any other genre of music. You'd have to be an expert in order to be able to do it. But with hip hop, it's not like that. It's you could be, you know, you could sound like shit, you could look like shit, you know, you could be the most no talented motherfucker in the world. You make the right record, top dog.
Well, Cowboy, I guess, in the last 2 years of his life, started to get addicted to cocaine.
More than 2 years, because we all went through our little you know, episodes with drugs, but he just couldn't shake it, you know. And he was more or less like the cornerstone of the group, as far as in every group, it's like, in every team, it's like it's just one person he's the heart and soul of the group. And Cowboy was the heart and soul of the group. He was, you know, the most naturally talented. You know, I had to, you know, practice, I don't know how many hours just to keep up with him. I mean, me starting to work out, he was, you know, used to do his push-ups, and Ego, I'd do push-ups, and you know what I mean? But he was, you know, the strength for the group, the backbone of the group. But, you know, when he got hooked on drugs, and he couldn't shake it, you know, and I seen him, you know, go from, you know, a big, strong dude to, you know, to after a while, it's like, and, you know, I've had a lot of experience with dealing with people that's hooked on drugs. After a while, you got to walk away from them, you know, because you could get addicted. See how drugs is, you can get addicted off somebody else's addiction. I'm not going to rock with you like that. You know, I know a lot of people that was like that. I'm not going to get addicted off your addiction. If you're going to do it and you ain't going to stop, I can't stop you. And after a while, I'm not going to want to stop you, because, like I said, now I'm addicted on your addiction for trying to stop you from doing something that you're not going to stop doing.
Well, he ended up dying of a drug overdose in '89. I mean, fairly, you know, a few years after everything was blowing up and everything else like that. But when you heard about the news of him dying, how'd you feel?
It was one of the worst days of my life. I mean, he was, like I said, I mean, if he would have still been alive, we could have, you know, even though the group broke up and Flash was doing his own thing, if Cowboy would have still been alive, we could have probably still made a push, because, you know, he was that much of he was that important as far as the Furious Five go. He was that important to the Furious Five. So without him, you know, we got 4 guys, but it's not the Furious Five. And we couldn't really climb back. You know, I mean, it would have been hard to climb back anyway, because the whole game, the paradigm of the game was changing. But it was almost impossible to climb back, you know, after he passed away. So that was one, and that was right after that, I moved out to LA, because I knew it was nothing more for me in New York after a while, you know, because, you know, there was nowhere to go. We didn't have a Furious Five. We didn't have Cowboy.
Well, Duke Booty, who, you know, you did the message with, ended up dying a month ago, age 69. Another loss.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like how people say, you gotta, because life is a weird thing. You could live a shitty life, but if you only have one more day left, you look at that shit different. You know what I'm saying? So you got to take it for what it is. Things could have worked out a lot different for me in my life, but at the end of the day, I'm not saying I'm content or satisfied, but we did the best with what we had. No story in the world could end up the way it is, other than hip hop. From the way it started to all the people that added on to the story as the days go by, and it's a beautiful story, and it's an American story. Like, people try to look at it, oh yeah, it's from the hood and we. It's not necessarily we. It started with 3 crews, but that could only happen in America. For it to come from nothing to now, you got people all over the world that's using hip hop as their voice. The only thing that throws me off is that you got a lot of these young dudes, and they could say anything they want to say, and then it comes down to what's going on.
Well, after the Message album, that's when Chaka Khan, I Feel For You, got put out. That was in '84. And we interviewed Chaka Khan not too long ago. And, she talked about how this is the first time that hip hop and R&B actually came together on a song. And this was a monster song. I remember this was like one of the big breakdance songs when it came out. And the whole Chaka Khan, like that stuck with her forever to this day. That song ended up winning 2 Grammys.
Yeah. Song of the Year, American Music Award, Song of the Year. Huge, super huge song, but the biggest record that I was on. And oh
yeah,
I didn't meet Chaka Khan until we was on because when we did the song, they just flew my voice on the track. So I'd never met Chaka Khan. As a matter of fact, I never even heard the finished song. I was in a cab coming uptown from the Roxy, and I was high as hell. And I heard the song, and I thought I was dreaming, like, because I was, I was so high, you know what I mean? And I heard the song on the radio, and that's the first time that I heard the song in its completion. Went on to be a great song,
Hell of a song.
Yeah.
Hell of a song.
Yeah, and that was my best year, 1984. That was Beat Street, White Lines, Chaka Khan.
Right,
yeah.
And I was about to say that next. Then the Beat Street movie came out right around the same time.
Right.
And I remember seeing that in the theater. And that, at the time, was the greatest hip-hop movie, period. Not to say that there weren't other ones. I mean, Breakin' was cool, but it was more of kind of like a lighthearted...
West Coast kind of thing. And
yeah.
Wild
Wild Style was cool, but it was more of a low-budget kind of thing. I mean, Beat Street was a theatrical release, higher budget film, and a very serious film at that. With the main guy, Ramon, getting killed, trying to chase down the dude that was, Spit, who was like messing up all his murals. And then you guys see, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five come out at the end. And I guess the main actor was actually rapping, was lip syncing your lines, right?
Right. Because I'd actually had wrote the song for him, but he never could get it. So they had to use my voice, and that's the only reason why we got in the movie, because he couldn't get the song, which was kind of like a hard song to do. I never did that song on stage because it's just a lot to do if you're moving around or whatever. But that's how we got in the movie, and the only reason why I wrote the song is. We had a conversation with What's my man's name that produced the movie? I'm having a senior moment.
Mario Van Peebles?
No. That was the guy. Oh my God, what's my man's name? Harry Belafonte. There you go.
Oh, okay, yeah, Harry Belafonte.
So having a conversation with Harry Belafonte, and that was what was the inspiration of the song, of how Beat Street came out, because he, it's Harry Belafonte has, spectacular conversation, just the history of the whole thing, of who he was. And I think Beat Street, I think it was a well-produced movie. I'm not going to say I hated it, but I didn't actually like it, really.
Really? I loved it.
I mean, it was definitely a good movie. It was produced good, but compared to the other movies, like you said, it was the most complete movie out of all. It had real b-boys. It was more indicative of what hip hop really is compared to the other movies.
I agree. Well, a few years later, there was a battle with you and KRS-One at the Latin Quarter. And I've heard KRS-One's version of this battle. What's your version of this battle?
It wasn't a battle. Here's my whole thing. If me and KRS would have had a battle in the Latin Quarters, why is he the only one telling that story? That would have been a legendary battle. And it was people there. I'm not saying nothing happened. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we never battled. Because if we would have had a battle in front, and it was a full house of people, why is he the only one telling that story? You and nobody else have never heard one other person say anything about that other than him.
Well, what he said was that he was performing that night and you came on stage.
He's a liar.
And kind of grabbed the mic and you did a routine. Okay, according to him, and you guys can look up the video, it's online. According to him, you kind of did a routine, but not really battling him directly. And I guess when it was his turn, he kind of went at you directly, and that was the overall vibe. But he kind of, the way he described it is you sort of crashed his set, is the way he described it.
None of that never happened. He's a liar. And like I said, the proof is always in pudding. If me and KRS would have had a battle, nobody in the audience is telling that story. Nobody that was the DJ is telling that story. Nobody that was a bouncer told that story. Nobody that was a bodyguard told that story. Only him. Only him.
So what happened?
So in other words, the battle was in his head. That's where
there was no battle
was.
At all?
No, we never. If we would have had a battle, I would have won. If we would have had a battle, the battle was in his head. Something did happen, but nothing what he said happened. And what actually happened is nothing for me to speak about, because it was nothing. So the battle was in his head. I don't know what to say.
There you have it.
Like I said, if me and KRS would have had a battle, shouldn't that have been the talk of the town? Why isn't it? Why wasn't it? If me and KRS would have had a battle, wouldn't that have been the talk of the town? Wouldn't that have been a historical moment in hip hop that everybody would know? Oh yeah, the night that KRS and Melle Mel had a battle. Wouldn't that be the case? He's the only one that tells that story. So the battle was in his head. If we think he battled, we battled. I don't know what to say. All
right, well, it is what it is then.
Yeah, I ain't mad at the guy, but we had a battle in his head.
Well, a couple of years later, you worked with Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
You were on the Back in the Block album and Q, the autobiography of Quincy Jones, and you won a Grammy for both of those. Because you never actually got your Grammy for the Chaka Khan record, right?
I don't think I'm having too much of good luck with the Grammys.
Well, did you get those actual physical Grammys?
No.
No? Grammys just doing you dirty.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And then they had the Grammy Hall of Fame this year that got canceled. We were supposed to be in Lifetime Achievement Awards for the Grammys. That got canceled, so we having a bad history with the Grammys.
Well, in 1992, there was a celebrity boxing match. And Rap-A-Lot got called, and there was a pre-match with Freddie Fox and this rapper named Dopey from the Terrorists, who was on Rap-A-Lot. And Freddie Fox won that fight.
Yeah, Freddie Fox could actually fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, Freddie Fox got hands on him. I wouldn't want to get in the ring with Freddie. And then there was the match with you and Willie D.
Right.
And I looked that video up online. From your point of view, how did that go?
Well, I mean, obviously, I lost. And but what actually happened was we bumped heads. We both fell, and then when I got back up, I was super woozy, and then they stopped the fight. So it wasn't much of a fight. Like, it ain't like ain't like I was bleeding or anything like that. But yeah, we bumped heads, and then we both fell.
I watched the video, and I'm actually friends with Willie D. So me and Willie got on the phone this morning, and we talked about that. He denied the whole head bumping thing. He did fall. He said he slipped, but he said that there was no head bumping.
Well, either way, if he slipped, we both went there. If you look at the video, it's on the video.
Yeah.
It's not like he didn't slip. You could say, I can say I slipped. After I ran into his hand, I can say I slipped. But I mean, either way, it happened. I mean, you win some, you lose some. I mean, I don't.
It is what it is. And Willie D's no slouch. Willie D's a tough guy.
Yeah, he could actually box too. I mean, but I mean, I don't know. Like it's not like I looked at it about maybe 3 weeks ago. Somebody posted it on Facebook or something like that. And yeah, it's there. Didn't last long. I lost.
Hey man, to get in the ring with someone, and I've boxed before. That's not an easy task.
Yeah,
it looks easy from the outside. It is not easy when you're actually.
No, it's not. I mean, and actually, I was in the best shape that I ever was in when we did that, and that's how it turned out. And that's why I say to this day, the average person don't got around in them all this tough guy shit that people was talking. Hey, listen. In the right situation, I would climb in the ring right now because I mean it is what it is. I mean every day is a fight, So if you can't, if you ain't willing to fight, you don't need to be around. Just like how they was ragging on Nate Robinson. He lost the fight. Okay, okay, you could laugh at him, but when you get in the ring, something might be funny that would happen to you if you brave enough to get in there. You know what I mean? It's that's just the way things happen.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot to get into a ring. And as you can see with the Nate Robinson thing, if you don't spend a lot of time in the ring preparing for that, if you get in the ring with someone who has, you're going to be at a very big disadvantage.
What happened to me? What if that same thing would have happened now? It was just no real social media and shit like that then.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? For it to be, but if that same thing would have happened now, I would have been the meme for Nate Robinson. That would have been.
Slow down. What happened to Nate Robinson is not what happened to you. Let me tell you, Nate Robinson was asleep.
No,
I think he's still in the ring right now. I don't know if they've ever gotten him out of there. I mean, he was asleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what happened to you? I mean, listen, it was a knockout. It happens. It is what it is. But what happened to Nate is not what happened to you. So let me just kind of clear that up. Okay, and then in 2007, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five became the first rap group to ever be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
How did that feel?
It didn't really, it didn't really have any real significance until years later, like it, like 3 years later, and then how people would approach me, because for anything else with the Grammys, okay, yeah, it was a good show, boo, boo, boo. But for years later, people would approach me and congratulate me on being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I thought when it first happened that it was just like something like, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is gonna try to get a come up off of hip hop, basically. And we didn't get in because of us. I'm thinking that we got in because of, the Jay-Z's. They want them in, but you have to start somewhere. See what I'm saying? And the obvious choice was us, because of how long we was in the game and, the records that we put out and the caliber records it was. But I just thought that they were just going to, they just trying to capitalize off of hip hop. Not for us necessarily, but for everybody that they would want in after us, the Biggies and Jay-Z's and Eminem, you know what I mean? We was just, you have to start from somewhere. So they started with us. But then years later, I seen that it was, it was a lot of prestige in it, even though I didn't think, I didn't think they wanted Grandmaster Flash and the 55 in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They just wanted hip hop in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But at the end of the day, it's a great achievement.
Well, years later in 2016, when NWA was about to get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Gene Simmons from Kiss basically said that rappers shouldn't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He said when Led Zeppelin gets into the Rap Hall of Fame, then rappers should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. I mean, but that's his opinion, and and he's welcome to it. But music is music. I mean, and it all is it's all in the same circle, because and especially with hip hop, hip hop is in all branches of music. Like how people, this is what people say about hip hop. This is one of the biggest misconceptions of hip hop. They say that anybody other than a black person that do hip hop is culturally misappropriating hip hop, when hip hop was the biggest cultural misappropriation of ever. We used everything, all musics. It was it's no hip hop music. It's hip hop music now. The origins of hip hop music is no hip hop music. So anything could be hip hop. So for hip hop to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and just like Run DMC didn't, it wasn't an original concept to do Aerosmith. We was doing Aerosmith from the gate. Bob James, anything. Bob Marley. We played slow jams in the clubs. We used anything that you could play in a party. We used it. So and that's one of the biggest strengths of hip hop, that it could be anything. Anything could be hip hop. I could take a Madonna song and put a rap on it. It's hip hop.
Huh. So you're saying hip hop itself is a culture vulture?
It's cultural misappropriation to the highest degree. Because we used everything. It wasn't like, okay, we just going to use funk music, but we ain't going to use jazz. Anything that had that little beat in it, we used it. The Mexican, that was like a Western song. We used it. Bongo Rock, which is one of the biggest hip hop songs ever. That's not a hip hop song. That was, I don't know what you would call it, the genre that it is, but it wasn't hip hop. We just said it was hip hop. So, for people, and that's for people that want to, they want to politicize what hip hop is. This culture, Bruno Mars is misappropriating the culture. No, hip hop is misappropriated culture. Hip hop is a vacuum. It sucked everything in. That's what hip hop really is.
Well, I mean, when you talk about people who get called a culture vulture, Macklemore is really at the top of the list, and he's the one that actually reached out to you to be in the song Downtown,
right? Along
with Kool Moe Dee and Grandmaster Caz,
right?
No one else.
No. See, in my opinion, what's going on right now in hip hop, and this is all African Americans, biggest culture vultures in the world. They sold hip hop out to the 100,000th degree. They sold it out because hip hop is bigger than the dude on the corner. It's way bigger than that. And then they just trying to make it so that hip hop is just some garden variety nigga shit. Like, like, oh yeah, you ain't a real nigga unless you a street nigga. That destroyed the culture. It ain't no more DJ, like the importance of a DJ. Like the DJ, they even promote it. Like a DJ, he's on some tough guy shit. Whereas it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be some of all of it, basically. Instead of just, okay, yeah, well, we just, this is, now this is what it's about. And the way it's working out is not working out all that great for hip hop. If you could even call some of it hip hop, because they said what it was when they first put it out. Gangster rap was gangster rap. They didn't say it was hip hop. It went in the pot to legitimize it. Trap music, they said what it was. Drill music, they said what it was. They said exactly what it was, and then they put it in the pot of hip hop to legitimize it. So now all of these dudes got a platform in hip hop, but you know who don't got a platform in hip hop? The real hip hoppers. They're like, yo man, fuck them.
There was a clip, I think, from a TV show where you said you could easily beat Eminem in a battle.
Easy. It would be the easiest thing I ever did. Easy.
Okay, explain.
Because at the end of the day, mechanically, technically, he's a great rapper. But I'm the greatest. I know how to write it. When I put it down, it's gonna stay down. It would be the easiest thing I ever did. Easy. See, when people bring that up, just say you can't beat Eminem. Just say that. But I've been doing this all my life. It would be even to battle any. It would be the easiest thing, and I don't even write like I used to write. It ain't even like I wrote this. No, nothing like that. This is my destiny. Everybody else that's out there rapping, y'all trying to do something that I already did 40 years ago. And like I said, it would be the easiest thing I ever did. Easy. Mainly because everybody out there gonna say, no, that's impossible. He can't. No, you can't. It's just like with all the 50 great MC thing. If you think it's 50 great MCs, you're not one of them. If you can count 50 guys, it ain't even 50 great niggas. How's it gonna be 50 great MCs? Great. That change territory. It's not there. It's just 50 guys that can rap. And the 50 guys are guys that made records. So that's not of all times, that's when records came out. You see what I'm saying? Like my mechanics and my dynamics and my knowledge of what rap is all about, it supersedes anything that goes on out there. But it's just that piece. You see, this is what people are looking at. This old motherfucker, how he gonna beat so-and-so? Easy, because I'm an old motherfucker. I've been doing it longer. I'm gonna do it better than you. I'm gonna come off better than you. I'm gonna come off better. I'm gonna come off better. And that's my whole thing with all this hip hop shit. I don't pray, but the one thing that I did pray, just stand me up next to these guys. Then you're gonna see who they are. Then you're gonna see who they ain't. You're gonna see who they not. And I ain't even gonna have to say a rhyme. Just stand me there. Then you're gonna see a legend compared to who you think a legend is. Then you're gonna see a true legend. And all I gotta do is stand there. Because like I said, my mechanics and my knowledge of hip hop, my delivery, whatever I'm gonna bring to the table is top notch. They don't make them like me no more when it come down to being an MC. Even when they say what a great MC is, they never even put in crowd response. So you're gonna have a great MC, but he got a hype man. He can't hype the crowd up himself. He need a hype man to hype the crowd up. But they don't put that in the equation. You see what I'm saying? And these are the people that's supposed to be the expert. And it's 50 great MCs. 50? Come on. It might be 4 if you're talking about true greatness. Maybe.
Okay, who are the 4?
Me and whoever else you want to put behind it. As a matter of fact, don't even put me in that equation. I'm somewhere else, and then you could start with whoever you want to start with. Because it's all up to too much subject. It's all up to too much subjection. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever person is thinking in their head. That's their top 10. Like, and you have like Jay-Z and one of the guys from that Atlanta group. It's too much subjecture in it. It's not no one. This is what the greatest MC of all times is. And we talking all times. Everybody else, I'm talking all time. Everybody else is talking about who made records. Nobody that made a gangster rap record or a trap rap record or any of that could have went back when we was rapping and got away with that shit without getting their scalp taken. It would have never.
Well, you
happened.
mentioned Rakim. You mentioned that you have a lot of respect for Rakim.
Yeah. He's one of the rappers that could have rapped back when we was rapping. He definitely is, and he changed the game. He changed. We all had to start rapping different when we heard Rakim. I never had to rap different for nobody else. When I heard Eminem, I could rap the same. The game didn't change. It wouldn't stop nothing. You see what I'm saying? That's greatness. See, they toss around greatness too much. In order to be great, you had to have changed something. If you just made a song, if Eminem, you can call Eminem a great rapper. If he was so great, then why it ain't 50 white rappers? Why ain't nobody saying, well, who's the top 50 white rappers? Because it didn't change nothing. He did what I'm not saying he's not a good rapper, but I'm saying good rappers. When I started MCing, and when I said I was an MC, how many people said that they was an MC after I said I was an MC? That's great. Now, like I said, where's the top 50 rappers? It's not. Because
well, I think Tupac. A lot of people got influenced by Tupac.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still doing their best Tupac imitations these days.
Yeah. So now we only got 2 guys.
Okay, so we got 2. I think Biggie would have been great in any era.
He couldn't have made it back then because he talked.
You don't think so? With the rhyme play and the way he put his words together.
If he's saying what he's saying right now, that's what I'm talking about. Back then, when it's only guys that rapped and did hip hop, and then it's all the tough guys. You couldn't say that around them. You couldn't talk about selling drugs around them. They would probably kill you just on that. If you got on the mic talking about who you're gonna kill, and there's only dancers and killers out there, it's, real street guys, and you got on the mic talking about who you're gonna kill. And it's not like you got your little crew and your little entourage and all that. The same guys that's holding you down is the guys that's over there. Is the guys that we made up the shout out to placate them. And a motherfucker come up and pull his gun out and grab me by the back of my neck. Yo, shout out so and 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 so. And then what is these niggas gonna do when a nigga do that to them? What are they gonna do? Except for invent the shout out like we did. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It was no separation now. It was a definite separation. We was younger kids, and you had guys that were 5 or 6 years older than us, stick up kids, henchmen, and all that kind of shit. And those were the guys that was out there. So now you get on the mic, yeah, I'm a woo-woo, and I'm a blah, and my 9. That wasn't gonna work. I don't care who you was. I don't care who you think they was. It wasn't gonna work because these dudes, that was who they really are. It's just like the dudes that's on the mic right now. That's not always the real dudes, but they talking about a real dude. And it wasn't no separate. It wasn't like we had friends. Well, it wasn't like we was friends with them like that. Like I said, if somebody pull a gun out on whoever and tell them who to shout out, and you don't shout it out right, what you think was gonna happen to you then? What you think was gonna happen to them then?
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you.
So all that greatest of all time shit, it don't mean shit to me because I know none of these dudes now would have been able to do it back then. Rakim would have been able to do it. Like somebody like Kane would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you've said that the Jay-Z is overrated.
I think a lot of rappers are overrated. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you said that you know, as a businessman, he's phenomenal. But as a rapper, you wouldn't put him in your top list.
No. Because see, the main problem that I got with dudes like you know, with a lot of these dudes, when you made it, you made it. Now you out. Forget the street guy act. You're not street like that. I'm not even a street guy. I'm a hood nigga. I'm not a street nigga because I know I'm not gonna be out on the street like that. And then to take it even a step further, these dudes live in the big houses. They live in the best neighborhoods. It ain't no street dudes around. But you're gonna have this street dude think that being on the street is the right thing to do and the right person to be. You don't. You gotta give people. You gotta give the people that's left in the hood something to hold on to make it out the hood. What a lot of this hip hop shit did, it made the ghetto permanent. You ain't supposed to stay there like that. And that's why I say a lot of them is overrated because they what they doing is they selling a product, and then when you know after the product is through, is done, is sold, now they still thinking they got product to sell. And they don't. You live a nice life. You know, if you graduated from college, if you live good, they kids, all of these dudes' kids is never gonna see the inside of a jail or the inside of a public school. Thank God. But they putting that shit out there for all these kids to do that? Come on. And all of these things is what the system promotes. To whereas a good smart kid is a piece of shit, but you know everybody but you know they a little trouble, but you know we can. You're gonna help a bad kid more than you help a good kid. Like if we got a track team, you helping the slow niggas. The motherfucker that could really run, oh yeah. You helping these slow niggas. Y'all ain't gonna win. And that's why we won't win. We can't.
Well, let me jump to a previous topic because I just found what I was looking for.
Okay.
So we talked about how gangster rap and NWA kind of changed the direction of hip hop, which you still see to this day. But I actually looked it up. You were the first rapper to actually have a gun on the cover of one of your albums, and that is the Work Party album. I'm gonna go ahead and show this to you. That's you holding a gun.
That's not actually a gun. It's like it's not a gun. It's like a fucking space gun or something.
Okay. Okay, so you remember that photo shoot?
Yeah. That was for the album, you know, with the Furious 5 album that we did for overseas. That's legit. That's definitely legit. But I'm saying it's not like it's a 9mm or it's like a fucking space gun or something. It was like a prop. You see, like we look like some some fucking Terradome shit, you know, Mad Max or some shit like that. It's, you know, it's a good try though.
Okay, all right. I mean, someone else had mentioned it. Your man who did that. That feature.
No, that's like
Jay Quan literally mentioned it.
No, but that's like You know, it's like a space gun or some shit. And like I said, that's not what we represent. Our shit is with the highest level of creativity, and you know, and a lot that comes out after that is all downhill. It all goes, you know, because like I said, hip hop. And I heard this being said the other day, which I don't agree with. They said hip hop is the music of the streets. It's not. Hip hop is the people's music. It's not the music of the streets. It's the music of the streets if you want it to be the music of the streets. But you know, that statement in itself, it don't say a lot about hip hop, because you ain't supposed to promote that. And now everybody says, "Oh yeah, that's how we live." You live how you want it to live. That's what you do. Like I said, I'm 59 years old. I never shot nobody. I never stabbed nobody. I walked away from way more fights than what I got into. And why? Because that's the right thing to do. If you want to live now, and anybody out there, you could make a choice. You could be a 59 and accomplish something, or you can go burn bright and get killed at the age of 25. And that's on the person. And the lucky ones will be the ones that die. The unlucky ones, they gonna go to jail, they gonna get a football number, and when they come out of jail, they ain't gonna have shit, they ain't gonna be shit, and then they gonna realize they lost.
Well, what are your feelings when you look back at hip-hop history, the first hip-hop figure to get killed violently was Scott LaRock.
Right.
That happened in the 80s. That was really the only murder that happened in hip hop in the 80s, period.
Right.
You fast forward to 2021, and it happens almost every month. I mean, just recently, Pop Smoke got killed.
No, not
King Von got killed. Mo 3 got killed. FBG Duck got killed. I knew 3 or 4. Out of those 4, 3 of them I knew, 2 of which I've interviewed.
Not every couple.
And this is just recently. And then of course Biggie, Tupac, and the list just goes on and on and on. It almost accelerates the later you go into hip hop history. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, every couple of days now, somebody get killed. It was every month. Now I follow that. I go on YouTube. I do my little research on what the temperature is about what's going on. And I think it's disgraceful. And what's the disgrace is, where's all of these overeducated motherfuckers that psychoanalyze everything, that could trace everything back to some ancient history shit or what happened to, what do they have to say about what's going on with these young men and women? And they have nothing to say about it. It's almost like it don't exist. Where's Black Lives Matter when black people are shooting other black people at the rate and for the reasons that they're shooting each other? And they have nothing to say. But if the same person gets shot by a cop, everybody's out on the streets. Now, my whole thing is real simple. If you a kid, and if you think that that's the only way that you could come up, with a mic in one hand and a gun in the other, is not going to work out for you. It's not working out for them. You got to choose one. Either you want to be an entertainer and you're going to have to leave some of them tough guys where they belong in the street, or you going to try to take an entertainment situation and take it from street to street to street to street. One of them dudes go and do an interview. They talking more about who they got a beef with. I ain't got to talk about who I got a beef with, because I don't. I ain't got no beef with nobody. Because I want to live. But it like I said, all these overeducated, they ain't even addressing the problem. And like I said, it's past every other day, some young dude that calls himself a rapper gets killed. And just like even when we did the K-Slay album, 50 guys that was MCs, 45 guys said something about killing somebody in the song. out of 50 guys. It might have been more than that, because it was 50 guys. But 45 said something about killing somebody. And that translates into those 45 guys inspires, if those 45 guys inspired 5 guys apiece, 10 guys apiece. And so on and so on and so on.
I mean, yeah. I mean, about a month ago, my name was trending on Twitter because people were blaming me for the rapper Casanova getting locked up. Because in my interview, he talked about how he had stabbed someone in prison, and there was a line about him stabbing someone in prison in his paperwork. Now, he had actually talked about that in a bunch of different interviews, not just mine, and Vlad wasn't even in the paperwork, but everyone started going with the line of Casanova's locked up because of his Vlad interview. But what he talked about was years ago. Casanova got locked up because he kept being allegedly involved in more criminal activities.
No, but look, but here's the whole thing. It's like I said, you have to choose one. Because these dudes are out there. Now they got all this unnecessarily illegal, hectic shit going on. When you're supposed to be an MC, you're supposed to be doing music. But now the rule of the street is stop snitching. So why you keep talking about the shit that you doing? How do you think that that's going to work out for you? If you do a record, you go do a crime, then you do a record about the crime that you did, and then you do a video about the record about the crime that you did, and then expect for nobody to pay attention to that, when that's the same thing that you want everybody to pay attention to. Look at how much drugs I sell. Look at how much big guns I got. Look at how many people I killed. And then you expect for everybody to stop snitching. And then when everybody stops snitching, you snitching on yourself? Because you ain't choosing one. You mean to tell me if you a killer, you want everybody to know that you a killer? A killer. And you got it on the song, and you can't see that this is a setup, because all you got to do is listen to somebody's song and go arrest them.
Which actually happens.
No, because right, because either they said they killed somebody or they threatening to kill somebody. Either one of them is a crime.
Right, because one of our biggest regular guests, Boosie, he told me flat out in an interview, you cannot be a gangster and a rapper at the same time.
You can't.
And he attempted it, and he ended up on death row over multiple murders. He luckily ended up beating it, but he said for a day and a half they played his lyrics to the jury from a bunch of different songs, saying, here he's talking about shooting someone here. Here's his gang affiliation in this song. Here he's talking about beating up and stabbing someone here, et cetera, et cetera. For a day and a half, this mixed race jury got to hear a bunch of these songs as the prosecutor is trying to paint him as a certain type of person. Now, Boosie had a lot of money, and he ultimately, I don't think he was involved in any of it, so he beat the case. But after that, he said, like, yo, I had one foot in the street and one foot in rap, and that shit just does not work out.
It'll never work out. And that's why I don't understand. Like I said, if you're supposed to be a rapper, you should know better. You can't promote that you're a killer. You can't promote that. Now you can make a song, if you want to be clever, you can make a song that would sell just as well, but not promoting the fact that you're involved in criminal activity. See, that's what's going wrong. They even the fact that you talk like that, somebody could just trace it back, and even if it ain't you and it's the crew that you with, you still get caught up. It's a conspiracy charge. You can still get caught up. And this is what I don't understand about when they be talking about the criminal justice system, and you want to change the criminal justice system. You got to change the criminals. These guys want to go to jail. They want to go. They not just snatching dudes off the street. Dudes, look, I never been to prison, and it's one reason why is because I never did nothing messed up enough for me to go to prison. I want to stay free. Now, if all your whole little street, like all that whole little street culture thing that they got going, everybody's going to prison. You're not going to be able to keep yourself out of prison because you're going to keep doing criminal shit. And criminals ultimately get caught. The lucky ones get killed. But I would pick death over prison any day. I'm not built for that. I ain't doing all that.
Final question. The thing that you're most known for in hip hop, the rah.
Right.
How did that come about? And can you do a proper version of that?
It actually came about from Tony the Tiger.
I was not ready for that. Okay.
Yeah, when he would say, "They're great," and I would go, "Rah!" And that's how it happened.
I never would have guessed that in a million years. Right there.
That's
have you ever told this story before?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I must have missed it. The famous Melle Mel sound comes from Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger.
From Frosted Flake cereal. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, Grandmaster Melle Mel, man, it's an honor to finally really sit down. I've been a fan for over 30 years. And I bought the 12-inch, I bought the album, I bought the 12-inch for White Lines, I bought the 12-inch for The Message. I was introduced to hip hop as a breakdancer through your music. Mm-hmm. And you were the soundtrack to my life during that era, which was a journey that I'm still on today. And I just want to personally thank you for your role in hip hop, because I don't think my life would be as cool as it is these days if it wasn't for hip hop.
Hey, hip hop gave a lot of people great lives, and if they really understood it and respected that, because like I said, you always got to leave something for people to pass on. You know what I mean? We did it. And not like we wanted to do it, but in the natural, circumstance of things, we left something for other people to pass on to somebody else. But now I don't know too much. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe some of these rich dudes and billionaires might have to sit down and get a code of ethics going on, because now the inmates are running the asylum, literally. And that's not who we are. They define us. Like, you got, athletes and stars. Yeah, let's go get that bag. What bag? What bag? That's that street shit. Let them have that. Let them have that. Let these kids know it's something else. That's more better down the road than just being from the street. Because I'm from the street, but that shit don't define me. I ain't never wore a pair of Timberlands or the big extra white T-shirt and all that shit. And like I said, and the main thing that you get out of this whole interview, if you see a bunch of niggas doing one thing, do something else. You'll last a lot longer that way. Believe me.
There you go. But at the end of the day, man, you have contributed so much to the art form. You have music that's timeless, that's still being sampled and redone and referenced to this day. And, I think as an artist, like me as a content creator, what I think is I'm trying to create pieces of work that's going to outlast my lifetime.
Right.
That's going to be carried on into future generations. I'm trying to chronicle hip hop and hip hop culture during this era so future generations could go back and learn about this. And what you've done is you created art that 30, 40 years later, people are still playing. It's still very important, and it's going to continue to be important past your lifetime, right, whenever that may be. And I think that's the ultimate goal for artists, and you've already achieved that multiple times over. So I'm definitely honored that you've come in to share your story. And you've told it before, but I think this is going to be your biggest interview in terms of what you've done.
Appreciate you.
No doubt. Until next time.